We have a whole lot to talk about regarding momentum finance and what's been happening over the last week. We have seen literally everything happen, and I want to clear some of this stuff up, give you guys the information that the team has put out in either AMAs and their Discord. There's a whole lot of information out there, and I want to do my best to have all of that information inside of this video, and I am going to put timestamps to everything so you guys can navigate through that if you want to listen to a specific portion. So the first thing is we need to talk about what happened to the MAS token. What happened to this chart? I thought there was a TMM. You thought the price was going to stay the same. Well, let me explain. So as we know, the momentum mechanism was essentially doing its thing all the way up to this massive candle, which goes all the way to about 20 cents. And right now the price of MAS is sitting at 47 cents. So what ended up happening is back on December 18th, I was actually at a Christmas party, and next thing you know, the liquidity pool actually went to zero. And what this means, if you guys aren't familiar with liquidity pools, that is essentially what you need for you to trade or swap in your MAS tokens in order to receive that BUSD, because the BUSD is what gives MAS its price. So if we take a look at Deck Screener, you do see what exactly is in that liquidity pool. And right now we have about 39,000 BUSD, which is inside of that liquidity pool, which is paired to about 82,000 MAS tokens. And that ratio gives the price of MAS of about 47 cents. So going back to December 18th, what ended up happening is that the liquidity went to zero, and this is due to a few different reasons. As we know, when you were able to bond your MAS tokens, and if you did bond for 14 days, you were essentially getting 25% more tokens, which were essentially just printed as an incentive for people to bond for 14 days in order for them to build their treasury as well as their liquidity pool. Now, of course, over time, as people continue to loop this mechanism, they continue to bond into this project and receive 25% more MAS tokens for doing so. As they take profits, what's going to happen is that it's going to eat up the BUSD side of that liquidity pool, because people will be selling their MAS token to cash in and to get that BUSD back in their wallet. And that is essentially what happened. Now, of course, we saw the effect that it had. The liquidity was around 400,000 only on the BUSD side of things. Then it went all the way to zero in the matter of a few days. Of course, the team wasn't expecting that. The whole sentiment on momentum absolutely shifted. People were taking profits out and nobody was actually buying anything. So that's what we see here. The drastic drop of price is due to the liquidity going to zero, and that is essentially what happened. Now, if you're wondering what has changed and what is removed from momentum as we knew it maybe a week ago or 2 weeks ago, I'm going to go over the different things that have been removed completely from this project so that you can get a better understanding of what's happening. So if we take a look at the bonds tab in momentum on their D app, you don't see an option to bond either for 7 days, for 14 days. The bonding mechanism is completely removed. So essentially, you can no longer buy into momentum by bonding. You are going to need to go and either use PancakeSwap or Bogged Finance to buy directly off the chart, and that's how you're going to be able to buy MAS. Now, as we know, before they had some buy and sell taxes, now that has been completely removed, so they literally have no taxes for buys and sells, and that's another thing that's new to MAS. Now, something else, as you can probably notice with the chart, they have removed the TMM or the momentum mechanism, and the reason being, as it was pointed out in the community by different community members, the reason the momentum mechanism failed is because so much sell pressure was happening, and when that sell pressure was happening, well, the momentum mechanism was making sure that the price of MAS kept around the same range and continued to slightly go up. So, as an example, if someone were to sell $5,000 worth of mass back when the TMM was actually functioning, what would happen is you would see a small dip in the price of the chart, and then as soon as the momentum mechanism was activated, the price would bounce back because the momentum mechanism was burning the excess amount of mass within that liquidity pool to make sure that the price of mass would stay the same or slightly go up. Now, obviously, this created an issue down the road because it drained the liquidity pool a lot faster than if the price of mass were to fluctuate during buys and sells. So, as they have said, the TMM was never going to stay forever. It was just for the kickstarting of this project, for them to bootstrap the treasury as well as the liquidity pool. Of course, we've seen what happened with the liquidity pool, but they still have about $460,000 in the treasury, which they will use. And lastly, the BUSD dividends that you were getting based on the volume that was trading mass, well, that is completely gone because, of course, since there are no more taxes either on the buy or sell side, well, there's just simply no more dividends. Now, they've also removed this referral program, so that is completely done, and that is obviously a good thing to me because I don't necessarily like referral programs. Now let's go ahead and take a look at what is next for Mass, what is next for Momentum Finance, and exactly what is the team's solution to all of the problems that we've seen happen over the last week. So as we can see, they did post a massive announcement after their AMA on Sunday night. There was a few days ago. And as we can see, they have decided to turn off the TMM, which is the momentum mechanism, because of exactly what I just mentioned. It was draining the liquidity pool a lot faster because it wasn't allowing for the price of mass to fluctuate, thus increasing the amount of BUSD that would leave the pool when people were selling. Now, obviously, that can come to a shock to some of you who wanted to get in on this project for the TMM, but as we know, things do happen, and unfortunately, they had to go ahead and remove this mechanism. Now, the second thing they have done to incentivize a liquidity pool, because as we know, the liquidity was literally at zero and the price of mass was literally worthless. So they actually went ahead and they created a liquidity pool of mass/BUSD, and they were going to incentivize this pool with $100,000 of BUSD, which is going to be evenly distributed over the next 30 days. And now we're into day 29, I believe. So it's only been active for 1 day. And you can actually participate in this and get your share of this $100,000 if you are providing liquidity to this BUSD/mass liquidity pool. Now we're going to get into that in a second here. I'm actually doing this in order to try and make some money. So stay tuned for that. We're going to talk about that in a second. Now, the next thing is that they actually injected $25,000 from their treasury into the liquidity pool to kind of bootstrap that liquidity again, because as we knew, the liquidity was literally at zero. So they had to take $25,000 from the treasury and put it into this liquidity pool. Now, a lot of people were asking, why would they not just take the $550,000 they had in the treasury and put it in the liquidity pool? They basically said that had they done that, the whole momentum project would be an absolute failure because people would just continue to cash out and the treasury would essentially go worthless and they wouldn't be able to make future investments. So that's why they opted out going with this route, providing 25K into an LP and then incentivizing people to provide liquidity for their fair share of $100,000 distributed evenly in 30 days. Now, another thing in their solution, they actually said that singularities were going to be capped, but now they've recently gone ahead and uncapped the singularities. So there is no cap to the singularities, but there is a cap in the amount of mass tokens that are available to the public. So if we go and take a look at mass on the blockchain and you go take a look at the total supply of mass, right now we have 778,000 mass tokens. And the only new tokens that are going to be minted are the people who still have a 14-day bond or a 7-day bond. And as those token vests, once they are all vested, there are no more mass tokens that are ever going to be printed. So a lot of assumptions are going through the Discord right now, and people are saying maybe the total supply of mass is going to be about 1 million mass. It may even be lower. It may be slightly higher, but it is, in my opinion, going to be around the 1 million mark, which means that after that, there are no more mass tokens ever to be printed. And that's one of the reasons why they decided to remove the cap on the singularities. Because now, without the TMM, without the bonds, without all of that, what is the utility of mass? Well, the first one is obviously now it's a speculative token because there aren't any taxes. People are going to either buy or sell, and that's just like any other token. Now, another utility for this is to actually stake it in their singularities, and their singularities is where all of their treasury investments, all of the revenue that these investments are generating are going to be shared with people who've staked their mass into the singularities. So going forward, this is basically the new momentum project. It's all about the singularities. Of course, you can play on whether or not the token price is going to go up or go down. But all in all, if the singularities and the treasury investments are making great returns, people are going to want to stake their mass tokens into the singularities in order to have their fair share of that profit. So if we take a deeper look at the singularities and exactly how they plan on making money to then reward people who've staked their mass into singularities, well, the first thing we know, they already have about 75,000 deployed in a trading bot. They have 2 validator nodes, one on Ethereum, one on AVAX. Then they have their mining farm, basically mining in Paraguay, which is going to be mining Cadena as well as Bitcoin. That aspect of it is obviously not running just yet. They are in the initial phases of that, and John, one of the co-founders of this project, is actually moving to Paraguay in the early parts of the new year. So that's going to happen, and I assume that eventually those revenues are going to start kicking in somewhere in 2023. Now, they also plan on having 20% of all the Alpha Shares NFT Launchpad services go into the singularities. And if you're not sure what that means, Momentum is the DeFi arm of the Alpha Shares project, and the Alpha Shares project is actually an NFT marketplace. So if someone is launching a project, an NFT project on the Alpha Shares marketplace, well, 20% of that revenue is actually going to go into the singularities. So that's another way they plan on making money for the people who stake in the singularities. Now, just to expand a bit more on this proof of work mining farm in Paraguay, this is where it gets exciting because, of course, it's not going to happen overnight. They do need some time, and maybe it's only going to be at the end of 2023 where we see revenues come in, but they have one of the lowest kilowatt hour costs that I've ever seen. It's literally 3 cents per kilowatt hour, which is unheard of, and this just opens up the door to so many things, and they're basically going to be profitable anytime they mine, even if the price of Bitcoin or Cadena is down, because their electricity cost is so low. Now, obviously, that is not what all people want to do, and some people just want to have instant gratification. And if that's the case, you can always remove your tokens from the singularities because there is a 30-day lockup. Once the 30 days is gone, you can remove your mass tokens and sell them for whatever the price of mass is. So that's always an option that you have. If you're not satisfied with the singularities, you can cash out, and if you're satisfied, you can stay in there and essentially earn BUSD rewards. Now, if you're wondering if people are locking up their tokens in the singularities, well, we can take a look at this. If you go on to BSC Scan, you go to the mass contract and you go to the holders tab, you can see this number one wallet, which has 500,000 tokens, or about 64% of the current supply of mass. That's the singularities contract, which means that all of these tokens are essentially locked up for 30 days. Now, the singularities actually came online a few days ago. If we go to my initial singularity stake, I actually did it the first day, which was on December 12th, which was also before this entire crisis. So maybe people in the singularities are going to want to get out of the singularities, and that we will find out over the next few weeks. Because as we can see with my tokens that I decided to lock in singularities as soon as it was available, I did it the first day and they become available or unlocked January 11th. So maybe on January 11th, we are going to see people do what they want with their tokens that are simply staked in the singularities. Now, obviously, from now until then, I do assume we are going to get a payout, and depending on what that payout is, people may want to stay or people may want to leave, but again, that is entirely up to people and what they want to do with their own money. Now, last but not least, if you guys made it this far, I'm going to share with you guys how to provide liquidity in order to get your fair share or your proportionate share of the $100,000 in BUSD that they are giving as an incentive for people to provide liquidity. So if we take a look at the Momentum D app, they have a new tab here. It's called staking. And if you've never provided liquidity before, I would suggest looking into that, doing a bit more research, because there is a risk of impermanent loss. And essentially what impermanent loss is the fact that whether or not the mass or the price of mass goes up or down, it is going to affect the value of your liquidity pool token. So if the value of mass goes down and you have provided liquidity, you may be losing money even if you are getting some rewards for providing liquidity. So just understand that and do some research behind this before just putting money blindly into anything. Understand that there is a risk of impermanent loss, and that even if you are getting some BUSD rewards, as you see here, you may still be losing money if the price of mass continues to fall. Now, if you're still interested in providing liquidity, the way to do it is you can go on their Discord. I'm going to leave a link in the description as well, but this is a link to PancakeSwap to provide liquidity on the Binance Smart Chain. And this one here is to Trader Joe. They have about $5,000 as an incentive. But of course, I went with the BSC side of things because there are just more incentives for me to provide there. And I also had my tokens on the BSC chain. So if we click on this link, it is going to bring you to PancakeSwap, and it's going to bring you to this page. And here you're going to connect your wallet, and providing liquidity is having 50% of two tokens. And in this case, you're going to need 50% of mass and 50% of BUSD. So obviously, if you have BUSD already in your wallet, what you can do, you can go to PancakeSwap and buy half of your BSD's worth for mass, and then you can create that pair. Now, vice versa, if you already have mass and you don't have BUSD, you can go on to PancakeSwap and essentially sell half of your mass to get some BUSD. Now, once you have an amount of mass and BUSD that you want to add as liquidity, what you can do is you click add liquidity. But for the sake of this example, let's say I wanted to provide one mass. Well, I would provide one mass as well as 47 cents of BUSD, because of course the price of mass is 47 cents. Now, what that's going to do is it's going to create the liquidity pool token that you're going to be able to then come on the Momentum D app, go to staking, and you're going to see your LP balance right here. So as you can see, I have a very, very small amount left just because it wasn't actually letting me. I had to round it up to a few decimals as opposed to 20 million decimals. But then you're going to come here and you're going to put your max amount of the liquidity pool token you just created on PancakeSwap. hit deposit, obviously approve the transaction, and then you're going to see your amount that's going to be staked. So now the way you actually get your rewards of that $100,000 that's incentivized for providing the liquidity, it is all going to depend on the amount of your pool share versus the entire pool. So as we know, there's $100,000 in BUSD that's given out over 30 days. That basically means that there is $3,333 given out on a daily basis. And what you can do once you've deposited, or you can also estimate it and calculate it before depositing it. So I can go ahead and calculate the amount of BUSD rewards I would be getting on a daily basis based on my pool share, because this means I own 1.12% of the liquidity pool, which also means I will get 1.1% of the total incentivized pool. So as we can see, 1.122% of the pool that we have to divide by 100. And as we said, it was $3,333 that are given out proportionally to your stake on a daily basis. So this basically means that I would be earning about $37 BUSD every single day. Now, this obviously doesn't account for my pool share decreasing, because as more and more people invest, my pool share is going to decrease, which is going to decrease the amount of rewards I get. But I could also deposit more LP tokens and have a bigger share of the pool, and thus increase my rewards I get. Now, it's obviously all a give and take, because there is, like I said, a chance of impermanent loss. Right now, there's about $78,000 in liquidity, about $39,000 in BUSD. And if you want to take a look at the contract and exactly where that money is being pooled into, this is this one here. So you do see there's about 48,000 LP tokens, and this 100,000 is now at 98,000 as people are collecting these rewards. So I'm not too sure what's going to happen after 30 days. They did say they were going to continue incentivizing the liquidity pool so that people get rewards for providing liquidity, and we don't see another bank run, and we don't see the liquidity go back to zero. So with all of that being said, that is a recap of what happened to Momentum Finance over the last few days, and exactly what is to come for Momentum and what the team is doing. So if you have any questions, I know there was a whole lot of information covered in this video. Shoot me a message in the comment section below. Join my Discord. Ask me anything there. I'll do my best to answer everything, or even join Momentum's Discord and ask your questions there. Their team is super transparent and they've answered all of my questions. Have I lost money? Of course I have. The price of mass is around 47 cents. It was once at $1.65, but I still do believe in the team. I still do believe in their vision, and I'm excited to see what happens with the singularities. But again, nobody really knows the future and how everything is going to go, so we are going to have to wait and see. You can do whatever you want with your money, but for me, I'm going to try and stick out with this Momentum project and see where it goes. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. Peace.